that shrinkage would be mitigated if.
Wait, you can have babies in the car while they're traveling. They can make babies in the car while they're in the self-driving car. That's what you're
Yes,
getting at, right?
that's brilliant. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Arguments in Logic, Episode 8. I had to check, Episode 8 it is, because
Yeah,
that's a lot.
right. Like, have we really had 8 episodes? I mean, what are we going to call this episode, man?
Well, I think we should introduce ourselves first.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I'm Robert Sykes.
And I'm Patrick Frazier.
Okay, and this is Arguments in Logic, where we put...
The critic in critical thinking.
Nailed it. I think you have something to share or something, right?
Oh yeah. Here's our clickbait headline, written by Google Gemini. Skynet is not ready. Waymo cars fail miserably in real-world tests. So I just thought of a brilliant idea. That's the name of this episode. The clickbait headline. I've been trying to reinvent the wheel. Like, the clickbait headline has been like, acting like, like it's the girl. It's the girl that's hitting on me at the bar, and I'm
Yeah,
ignoring her. I finally
nailed
get
it.
it.
Nailed it 100%. Nailed it.
That's true. So, as creative director here at Intellect Interrupted Studios, I mean, I don't mean to brag. I don't
Wow,
have
we
business
sound
cards.
important.
Yeah, that sounds super important. If I had business cards, it would totally say that because it makes me feel like Don Draper from Mad Men. Anyway, creative director. I understand our chief public relations officer reached out and got permission to share this article from an awesome outfit called Futurism.com. So thank you guys. And thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
PR director.
They were really nice. It was nice to hear from them, and I just emailed them, and they were super cool about it. So thank you. We appreciate it. And our 20 so odd viewers will love it, I think. So I'm gonna share this article on the Waymo self-driving car. So here it is. The Waymo self-driving taxi flummoxed by construction workers' hand signals.
It's flummoxed by them. So, like, isn't there a blurb in there where, like, just by the guy standing next to the stop sign and pointing at it, the the car just doesn't even know what to do. Is so like figuratively raising its hands up, like I don't know what this is. I'd recognize a normal stop sign, but not when a human's pointing at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So we'll put a link to this article, and embedded in the article is the original, the original social post, whatever it was on. I can't remember if it was a TikTok or whatever, but the original social post video is in this article, and so this
Mm-hmm.
article kind of talks about it as well. If you read through it, um, I mean, basically you have a construction zone. I'll paint the picture for you. You have a construction zone, and there's a guy standing there, and he's
Right.
holding the sign, right? They have the sign that they
Right.
flip from slow to stop.
Right.
He's holding it with the stop sign at the car, and then he's pointing like to the right. He's like pointing. So he's holding the stop sign, and he's like pointing, and then he's like making various hand gestures,
Mm-hmm.
and the car like kind of inches forward, and then it starts backing up, and it's clear the car's unsure what to do. And honestly, I would be unsure what the guy wants me to do. The article makes it seem like, oh, any normal driver, like oftentimes I'm going through these construction zones where they're holding the stop sign and waving their hand. There's a reason that police officers have very strict ways that they manage traffic and very strict rules that they use for what each signal means.
Right. Right.
Because those things are difficult to navigate. So, do you want me to stop? Do you want me to go right? Like, why couldn't the guy just turn it around to the slow side?
Right. Yeah, and oddly enough, I'm appropriately. I didn't think about this until now, but I'm appropriately qualified to comment on this because I've had the job over the summer up in Tahoe of being that person. You have the radio in
Oh,
there.
that's right. Yeah, you were doing that.
Yeah, I did that, and I think there were some former students that saw me, and they just shut up, Fraser. But
So, so
anyway,
did they give you any training around that? Like, I mean, this is a good point. Did they give you training around like, hey, if you want people to come through the zone, do you keep the stop outside out, or do you turn it around to slow? And then, like, what did they do for that?
yeah, we went to because it was through a temp agency in Reno, and then they sent us out to the California side of Tahoe for the 12-hour job assignment. But yeah, there was a little bit of training in the Reno office, and they were just like, "Yeah, this is what you do," and it basically boiled down to you have a radio in, you just do whatever the main person on the radio is telling you to do.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a very stressful thing. Actually, uh, it was like 20 something an hour, and then you get the overtime, and it's a little bit more generous in how the overtime was allocated in California for that position than if I did it in Nevada. But still, it's kind of stressful. 12 hours a night, and you're like, I don't want to kill people. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think so. So back to this. I mean, I think clearly there will have to be some adjustments in the way that these construction sites do things, and that the way that
right,
road workers, I mean, I don't personally look. It's not a perfect system, but human drivers aren't perfect either. And depending on, this article says nonetheless a human driver would have likely had no issues navigating the situation. And I just think I just 100% disagree with that. I think that depends on the person driving.
hmm,
Um, may or may not have had, because sometimes I'm unclear as to what they want me to do, and I would consider myself a pretty good driver.
yeah,
Um,
there's. It is one of those unique things that has to do with the complexity that a human brain is able to navigate. And so
mhm.
there's going to be a learning curve to get this technology more well situated for this particular problem set. But I'm sure that the engineers and programmers will get there, well calibrated for this problem set. But
Yeah.
also, we were talking about the link to the article in our description, but there's another link, a very important link that I don't want folks to forget about. If you would like a sweet T-shirt to just sort of flaunt your geek cred, you have an opportunity to buy our Schrodinger's cat T-shirt. It's a pretty cool link. There'll be at least two
It
links.
is. It is a cool T-shirt, and it definitely will do something for you around people who like cats. I mean, I think we've gotten at least one comment from somebody that said something to the effect of "cool cat, bro."
Yeah,
So
I
there's
had
that.
somebody. I had a cashier, a male cashier. No judging. I feel like he licked his lips and said, "Nice cat," and I awkwardly
Hmm.
smiled. So,
Well, you could have said something worse, so it's good.
could have, and that's like such flattery. He liked my cat.
So, anyways, part of what Patrick and I were talking about as well is we were going to take a ride down to San Francisco since we're fairly close at some point, and check out one of these Waymo cars. And stay tuned for a future episode where we take a ride in a Waymo car. Um,
I
because
was gonna.
it just seems interesting.
It does. It does. Yeah, we were gonna do a bit where I was gonna promise, like, if I get 10 likes, we'll do that. But the reality is, we would potentially do that no matter what, anyway.
Yeah,
So
because then we would never go if we got 10
yeah, we would
likes.
never
We're going to
go.
leave it on 10 likes.
It's like I saw someone do a video with the whole our new president. If they had enough likes, they'd go to Greenland and see how Greenland feels about being the 52nd state, since Canada is going to be 51, and then
Uh-huh.
Greenland. But anyway, I was like, of course that dude was going to get enough likes, but we're not going to get any anyway.
That's
Are you
okay.
But
So
speaking,
anyways, check out the article. I mean, that's that's kind of the gist of what we were talking about today. Is like, is this technology ready? I mean, honestly, I think it's pretty close. Is it
yeah,
perfect? No. Is it good enough? Probably. I mean, there's others that have argued that it's going to create all kinds of havoc on the roads, and it has created some traffic jams in San Francisco. I understand.
mm,
But there's only one way to program these things. Like, this is how it works. We have to debug in live environments, because if they're just riding around a test track all the time, you're never gonna you're never gonna learn all the problems about it. This is why all software is beta tested, and then it's live, it's put into production, and then updates are made afterwards.
yeah, and honestly, it's a lot safer getting in a Waymo. I'm sure, even though people say that air traffic riding in an airplane is statistically safer than riding in a car, but
Mm.
you know, but regardless, can you imagine how our I don't know our great grandparents or whatever would have felt being one of the first people to ride in a plane? When
Yeah,
nobody had ever done that, and that was a technology that needed to be tested on the real, well, not the ground, in the air. Anyway, that
yeah,
need,
yeah, yeah.
but
I get
it,
you.
but yeah, but it was a thing that had to be done, and how exciting that'll be to, if we did a trip in San Francisco or LA or wherever and rode in those cars because, it's fresh and new. We're not jaded yet like future generations will be with that technology, you know?
Yeah, it'll just be old news. You'll just be upset that you don't have 3 more inches of room, rather than rather than this idea that you're in a chair in the sky. You
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
so
Can you imagine future generations that will take seeing Earth for granted? Like, there's the video where Captain Kirk, William Shatner, is just going on and on about how great it was to see planet Earth to Jeff Bezos, and he's waxing poetically. But there'll be a day like, yeah, it's Earth, whatever. But
yeah,
something else we all take for granted is the phone. So, are you ready for our big trivia question, Robert?
I am ready.
Ah, so which profession did Almond Brown Strugger, the inventor of the rotary phone, originally practice? Your choices, it's multiple choice. A, teacher. B, funeral director. C, farmer. Or D, lawyer.
So I did not cheat on this either,
You didn't
but
get
I
it.
am almost 100% sure that I am right that he was a funeral director.
Yes, yes. So what did you
Yes.
base that off of? You know
See?
the story? Sure.
I think I heard it in one of my computing classes at some time, and it just stuck. And it's also, I mean, here's a fun fact about taking uh, multiple choice.
Hmm.
Sometimes with things like questions like these, it's typically the answer that is the least likely.
All right. Or that
So
seems counterintuitive.
yeah, so that is the most counterintuitive one, that the inventor of a phone would be a funeral director. But you know,
Yes.
he's punching buttons and turning dials everywhere he goes.
Well,
Walk, waka
turns
waka
out,
waka waka.
right. Well, it turns out you're right. So Strugger, originally a funeral director, was frustrated because his competitor's wife had a job as an operator. So whenever someone would try to get to them, he's like, "Oh, I think you meant to get to my husband's company." So he's like,
Mm.
"Ah, hold my beer," or however that meme went on Facebook. I never understood that meme, but he's like, "Yes, no, no, no. I'm not even an engineer. I'm going to design this." And evidently, that everybody had a phone number the whole time. It's just nobody ever thought, like, why don't we just make a thing so you could dial the number? Like, can you imagine if we didn't have ICANN to assign the numbers to the websites, and you had to, like, literally talk to an operator and go, like, I want to go to that website where I can, like, buy almost anything that exists? Or, like, do you mean Amazon? No, 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 the other one where I can auction stuff. Like, that would be a nightmare. And
Well,
then,
yeah, I mean, if you didn't, so I mean, yeah, exactly. If you didn't have DNS, which is domain naming system, and you had to like remember the IP address of Amazon.com rather than just typing Amazon. And there was a time, a long time ago, when you didn't have these things called search engines that you actually had to know the web address. And you had to put www in front of it or you wouldn't resolve it.
And honestly, remembering phone numbers is a thing that nobody does anymore either, because
Hmm.
everyone has like the numbers and the caller ID on their phones now.
Yeah, and directions. Like I've gone the same place 7 times before and not known how to get there without GPS.
Yes. And that being said, today I think there was a video that was on like YouTube or TikTok, Facebook or something, where the kids see like a phone, a rotary phone, like most of us Gen X and maybe the older millennials remember, where you wrote, you actually had to turn the
Yeah,
circle on the numbers, let alone just a normal dial, where that's kind of intuitive. But they look at it like it's a prehistoric iPod. They're like, I don't know what to do with this.
yeah,
But the point is, you know, evidently, when Alexander Graham Bell invented that phone, like he didn't, him, Watson, no one thought, well, you know what? Like, we should probably have a thing so people could dial numbers. They're like, oh, we'll just create a job and it'll be the operator thing. And it made perfect sense to them at the time. But somewhere, somebody got frustrated enough, a funeral director, it turns out, that they created this technology that led to another technology that led to another technology. So I've got to think that with the whole Waymo thing, that there's all kinds of problems that will just seem quaint when people look back at this conversation in another 20, let alone 100 years, that of course they're going to solve. And the answer will probably seem just like utterly obvious in hindsight, just like the rotary phone thing seems obvious in hindsight, I think.
yeah. I mean, they're 100% going to be a thing, right? We've wanted self-driving cars for the longest time. It makes sense, and not to mention that your traffic problems would actually go away. We have enough infrastructure. The problem with the reason that we have traffic right now is because there's so many different inputs and nobody's on the same page. Imagine if you could have a meshed system that could
Mm-hmm.
understand the effects of an entire geographic area and traffic flow and then merge all those cars into it. Like, you would just sail right through. But now, if somebody stops or somebody moves in a fashion where there's a ton of traffic coming through, we see the effects for that for hours, sometimes 12, 16 hours on a highway in some place like San Francisco, Bay Area, or LA. A broken down car or just a quick stop. You ever just be driving on the freeway and like all of a sudden everybody brakes and
Mm-hmm.
like you're like you go from going 65 to 20 miles an hour for
Yeah,
like 3 miles and there's nothing there.
yeah, and then
That's
sometimes it's just because somebody was getting a ticket, or there's
mhm.
some minor fender bender, and everybody's like doing the rubberneck thing.
Yep. And so a lot
Yeah,
of those things just go away and you can I honestly think that we have a lot of uses for this kind of technology and a lot of uses for artificial intelligence and where it's not being used. Like I was just saying the other day, like why don't we use AI in traffic lights? Like let's
mhm.
get these traffic lights smarter. Like how many times have you been sitting at a traffic light just
And
like there's
everybody's
nobody coming, or the worst ever is there won't be anybody coming and your light will be red, and then
yes,
and but the cross traffic will be green, and then the second that a car starts coming towards that green light, it'll turn red for them and then turn green for you, and so it's just like this constant like just lunacy to me, like why not? I could have already went in the time you waited to turn that light, but it's again they're run like the rotary phone, like somebody's like to make the lights turn.
right, right. Well, I'm laughing, but nothing more tragic than the only thing more tragic than traffic, I guess, would be a car accident, right? Especially, heaven forbid you lose someone you love. And that's why, I don't remember the amazing Kreskin bit from Johnny Carson anymore, and I don't have the get up for it. But my prediction, everybody's hating on AI these days, but technology may actually solve the so-called underpopulation problem that a lot of economists and other folks are upset about because
And we
if you don't
talked
have
about it a little bit in last episode.
we did, right? And there's a link from an economist that talks about it. The idea that if you don't have the right ratio between working age people and retirees and other dependents, then you don't have enough people, not only in terms of paying for Social Security, but also just in terms of generating enough tax revenue for,
Hmm.
clean up Garbage Island, NASA, whatever, NIH curing cancer. Like none of that happens, let alone getting roads paved, speaking of cars, without enough tax revenue, without enough, GDP in the economy, right? And so you need a certain number of people, babies being born every year. Well, I think part of that, that shrinkage would be mitigated if
Wait, they could have babies in the car while they're traveling. They could make babies in the car while they're in the self-driving car. That's what you're
yes,
getting at, right?
that's brilliant. Okay, now I feel totally dumb just saying that maybe the actuary table is going to be stretched out because there'll be less fatalities on the road of people dying on the road. But now you got me thinking about an even better idea. But
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
the point that's
Making babies on the road. You got like an
yeah.
8-hour road trip. I mean, you
Well,
know,
okay, so no, that's
at
actually
least 2.5 minutes of that you could make a baby.
well, that's true because I mean, look, the reality is that if we get to a day where you could just read or play video games and you don't really need to be engaged on the road because robot overlord is driving the car for you, there are
Hmm.
other activities like you don't need to go up in the air to go in the mile high club. It could just be the I drove a mile club. Like a mile is still a mile, whatever direction you go. Okay,
Yeah,
so
what do they call that? The Road Rash Club? I don't know.
okay,
This,
I've officially
do you
lost.
know what it's called to get laid in your car while you're driving in an autonomous car? If
Last.
it's not coined yet, we better come up with something.
I'm officially unemployable now that I made that joke. Oh god. Like we're not gonna not hire you because we were offended. It was really just like the joke was really bad. I mean, we'd hire the other guy with the beard, but you,
Yeah.
oh my god.
What would that be called? I'm gonna think about this, and next episode I'm gonna have an answer for what that would be called. It's
That's
the
good.
Mile
Well,
High Club. Maybe it's the Long Mile. I don't know, but
the law.
there's something there.
Yeah, yeah. That being said, I think that future generations will come to appreciate AI on a more visceral level. I guess I could put the link in this, but I saw a video about how the monotheisms, like the Abrahamic religions, kind of come from polytheistic religions, and then those religions come from shamanistic, animistic religions, and religions with shamanistic traditions. I don't think I'm saying that word right, but what I predict is that future religions will come to be more about like a form of pantheism and worshiping the universe, but the next big transition will be worshiping robot overlord.
I
And
mean,
we
I'm
will,
there already. I have completely 100% given my will and my life over to the care of the robot overlord as I understand him.
well, think about it like if an accident on the road happens, it'll all make a lot more sense if someone says, because tragically someone lost their life, say, well, the ways of robot overlord are mysterious. It'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I think you should put that link you sent me on that you had to take in your was it philosophy or ethics class
Yeah, yeah.
about the big question about you know if you're boxed in and you know if it's boxed in, which one does it choose? It's the iRobot question, right? Like
Right, right.
it chooses to say Will Smith and not the little girl, not and I just there's a lot of things. I get what they're going with that ethical argument. I get that they're
Right.
just trying to like create questions, but it's a little pedantic, the video, just because it's so over the top simplistic. Like like the only options in that are like let you die or kill someone else. Like there's, you know.
Well, bear in mind, while I may now be unemployable, if my professor happens to see this, since I'm taking ethics and engineering, I thought the video was wonderful. All the materials that you post for this class are great. But yeah, it's a good application. Now it shows that, of asking the question where when you're driving and for some reason your car has to swerve in one direction or the other, what the implications are if the AI has your car swerve into a motorcycle driver with a helmet on versus one with no helmet on. I mean, it's good to just start to lubricate the brain, but
Well, it's
it,
interesting the idea of a reaction versus something that's pre-programmed,
right,
right? And but the thing is that they don't consider in that video is that it isn't just a pre-programmed response because it's not how AI works. AI is evaluating the data just like you would.
right,
It's not in the same manner. It doesn't use the same mechanism to evaluate it, but it's still evaluating inputs and then determining a logical course of action, which is just like you. And the interesting part about it is that it's going to be a lot better at making those split-second decisions because it's going to be able to process far more data than you could at a much quicker rate. Not initially, not right now. I get it, but eventually it
right.
will. And it will actually probably notice things ahead of time, like, hey, I'm following a truck that has boxes that could fall. I mean, that's the first thing that I thought was like, why are you allowing yourself to be boxed in? Like when I was taught how to drive, I was taught that you always keep a way out. Like you never allow yourself to be 100% boxed in and that you always have a way out. Now, it's not 100% possible all the time, but that's what my goal is. I'm going for, even when I'm in traffic, is if I don't have a way out left or right, I'm gonna I'm gonna pull back a little bit to give myself some more space.
Right.
So, it's a good exercise, and it's a good exercise.
Well, plus, real quick before we run out of time, also my understanding is that when it comes to so-called AI, there's the proverbial black box where even the people writing these programs and doing all the training don't necessarily know what's going on behind that black box.
Hmm.
And similarly, we still don't know what's going on in the human brain. That's what makes,
Yeah.
feels like neuroscience so interesting is because it's still a huge mystery of what's going on in the human brain, let alone the so-called neurons of the robot brain.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting thought exercise, and it's also yeah, 100%. I mean, we're constantly like, what was that person's motivation and why did they perform that action the way
Yeah.
that they did? And so that's a good thing and a bad thing, and we're going to see the same kind of thing with the AI. It, it it's a misnomer that it's just this thing that's pre-programmed to perform functions. That's not what AI is. That's not what machine learning is.
Right, right.
That's a computer program. A computer program only follows its instructions and is, you know, step by step and line by line until you tell it to do something else. And the large language models are doing things a little differently. That's why it's so fascinating to see what they come up with. It's because they're not just acting on a set number of commands.
Hmm. And it's an emerging field, and it's exciting, and we have many unanswered questions, which makes an awesome, awesome segue because once again, we did it. We have accomplished
Nothing.
nothing.
Until next time, folks. Have a good one. Stay frosty.